So good morning, everyone. My name is Smriti Makramidha. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a psychologist by profession and a practicing psychotherapist. Also the co-founder of Mental Health at Work, a vertical of Equilibrium Advisory LLP. It's a huge honor and a deep privilege to be hosting Health at Work's first roundtable discussion with my colleagues who I identify as men on the occasion of International Men's Day. So International Men's Day is observed on November 19th every year to celebrate the cultural, political, and socioeconomic accomplishments of men. This day focuses on improving gender issues and men's health, promoting positive expressions of masculinity, and also highlighting the contribution of male role models. In our conversation today, we would like to honor the men in our team and invite them to talk about their personal journey of identifying themselves as men, what becomes possible as men in the society, and the pressures they experience. So, that much further ado, let's bring our speakers in. So, may I request all of you to introduce yourself, please?
Hi everyone. I am Vatsal. I am a cis man, and my pronouns are he, him, and I'm a lawyer by profession. I work as a legal and compliance manager here at Equilibrium. And yeah, that's it.
Hello all, my name is Anish Noor. I'm also a cis man. My pronouns are he and him. I'm a lawyer by profession. I'm handling the people and culture vertical at Equilibrium Advisory LLP. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Kamlesh Mohod. I'm a cis man, and my pronouns are he and him. I head the business development out here at Equilibrium Advisory LLP, and also I'm a freak traveler and avid reader.
Hello everyone, my name is Vidit Kashyap. My pronunciation is he, him. I'm working with the Posh Equilibrium from the last 2 years as a data management specialist. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. If I could maybe pose the first question to all of you. What does it mean to be a man?
If I can take that, that's a very broad question, but at least in today's time where we are right now, to be a man essentially is to struggle with an identity in the sense that it's not a, if you grow up with privileges, you understand your privileges, you have certain privileges. Right now, the idea of being a man is the idea of understanding your identity and understanding your place uh, in society, acknowledging the privileges, acknowledging the rights, acknowledging the responsibilities, and just attempting to see how your male identity has informed uh, the person you are right now. That's how it is for me, briefly.
For me, if you put that definition of to be a man, because it's the kind of society we live into, it's a very patriarchal society, and we need to live up to those identity and the kind of stereotypical norms which are given by the society. A man should behave in a particular way. Those are strict it's kind of straight line, and there is no deviation. You have to follow those kind of rules, and sometimes you may not fit in that way, but still to because society would not accept you if you are deflecting from that straight line. So to fit into that uh, straight line is more, sometimes you need to fit your identity there. So that's how in a stereotypical manner.
Continuing on that, I feel that man is someone who has a lot of balance in terms of though a lot of privileges are given, but with along with those privileges, a lot of pressure and presumptions do arrive. So I would say that in a society, man plays a big role in terms of the santulan that we have to create. Okay, and yeah, that's about it, and that's how the life turns out to be too.
Masculinity mean to me respect all gender. No one is inferior and no one is superior. That's it.
Mm-hmm. So now, Kamlesh, brought a very interesting point that how it's in a patriarchal society, the men needs to also follow certain rules, right? And if they were to deviate from those rules, then they're less likely to be accepted. right? Anish also brought in the fact that with privileges comes pressures. And I'm wondering, what are these rules that have been set for men?
Like I would agree with Anish on that point that when a particular stereotypical rules you have, and you need to be into that particular be into those particular shoes, and if you're deflecting from that rule, and there is a fear of acceptance, and if you have that fear of acceptance, that pressure comes on you, that you need to fit in those particular shoes. Now these kind of pressure can be from childhood, the kind of culture we have been brought in. You're a boy, you cannot cry. You're don't cry like a girl, because these are emotions which are I sometimes fail to understand why certain emotions are given a particular gender. Like crying is more for a it's strict to your female gender, and to protect someone, I like to protect your sister, your mother, your wife, it becomes a responsibility for male to be a strong one every time, to maybe a bread earner, always, to maybe a responsible person in the house. So these kind of thing has brings those kind of pressure, and society has laid those kind of rules that you need to fit in there most of the times, and if you're not fit in there, you're outcasted, you are called by certain names, you are to certain extent, when men do not fit into those roles, they are called by the names of nabarth. So that kind of harsh reality we still have in the society. It's very difficult for society to accept that in a relationship, if husband and wife, if wife is working and a man is a housemaker, that housemaker thing is very difficult for people to understand. How can a man sit at home? Man has to go out, earn the bread, bread for living, and then protect his family. And I feel in today's world, it's equal responsibility for men and women to carry their life and the relationship.
Just if I can add to just take from where Kamlesh said, right? So there are expectations, but essentially on in a larger scale, in a larger scale, what happens is there is a mold that we are trying to uh, fit men into, right? At least early on in my childhood, I realized very early on that the kind of behaviors that I have versus the kind of behaviors that I was expected to have are very different. And that mold of being, maybe say aggressive, maybe say uh, loud, maybe say authoritative, those molds didn't fit for me, for my personality at that point. At which point, the only decision I had was to either completely mold my personality, which was much harder, or to be completely silent. And I, more often than not, at least in situations where I was uncomfortable, situations where I wasn't I wasn't around people that I knew, I chose to be silent. I chose to not express myself, and that made me feel like I was a part of a larger group, uh, and I was accepted way more than if I had become the person that I was when I was 10 or something like that. And that's something that I used to do to garner respect from my family or my relatives, even at that point. And that grows into it is not it does not stay as extreme. I don't become silent every time I'm around uncomfortable spaces. But every time I'm in a new space, I realize that there are certain molds of a personality and emotions that I try to fit myself into. So the emotions and reactions are pre-decided. All I have to do is just act them out, and uh, I will become the man that I'm supposed to be.
It sounds quite hard, just listening to this conversation that often, as a woman, we talk so much about the expectations that are there from women, right? Seldom we talk about the expectations from men, right? It's almost seems like it's a patriarchal society, men have a voice. But it seems like men in this patriarchal society have also been silenced, like Vatsal was saying right now, that no, it was expected to like just act them out, so be the man I was supposed to be, right? And spaces where I didn't know how to express myself, I chose to be just silent, especially in newer spaces as well. Kamlesh also spoke about this in terms of having to be accepted, you had to do certain things or not do certain things, right? Like as a boy, I can't cry, I can't express those emotions. I'm expected to protect my sister and mother. I'm expected to be a breadwinner of the family. And this seems so much pressure, so intense, and also feeling this conflict in terms of the person I want to be and the person I'm expected to be as well. And I'm wondering, how have each one of you navigated these experiences? And more importantly, how did this understanding, this expectation was communicated to you in your growing up years? That this is how you're supposed to be, or this is what a man is supposed to be, or this is what masculinity looks like. How does this understanding come about of these expectations?
So, kind of, while growing up, when you have your sister, there are certain set of rules for you, for boys, and there are certain set of rules for girls. You know, boys can roam around. Girls have to, come at the, be in the house before 7 or before 8. They cannot roam around in the night. Sometimes, if something is happening and you need to be that aggressive behavior is more expected out of boys, and to be calm and serene is more expected out of girls. So either from your family or your relatives or your neighbors, you're a boy, you like to behave this. You are a girl, you cannot, you cannot talk loudly. While boys are asked, it is okay for them to, if they shout in a particular situation. So the bringing up, not only from your family but also the society and the surrounding, while you are growing up, these rules are, I'm like, sometimes spoken very out and loud, but sometimes are, you are supposed to understand those rules, because everybody around you are behaving in a particular way. These are unwritten, unsaid rules sometimes, and you have to behave in a particular way. So that's how you do not have to do it separately, because everybody is following, and we sometimes, as a society or as a person, lot of rules which are let down, we follow it blindly without even questioning them, without even asking why it is like this, why it is not like this. I'm for example, as I mentioned, you're told that a boy cannot cry. Well, then how a man or a boy would express his emotion? Because emotions are, emotion doesn't have a gender. It can, you can feel a boy or a trans man or a trans girl, or everybody who is living, they have a kind of emotion. How do they express? Where it is generally accepted a woman can cry and express her emotion, a boy cannot, or a man cannot. Then how are they supposed to do? And somewhere when they are suppressing those emotions, at a point of time, might be, when emotions get piled up, sometimes you might burst out. Sometimes that might also lead to, getting taking help from you, from some, from your friend. But sometimes being very emotional, as it's a stereotypical thing that you cannot be, you cannot cry. Your friends or your relative whom you're close to, that also might be misunderstood. How can you behave like this? You cannot cry. uh, a lot of substance abuse happens, what I understand, through my experience so far, because I've also worked with, uh, uh, in a psychiatric setup, and in a mental health care. A lot of these cases, when it comes, those are outburst of, because they were not able to express their emotion that had piled up at certain point, and there was a sudden outburst, and to find a kind of, a window of help, they have used maybe alcohol or drugs, because that gives them a kind of a way or a sense of relief. So that's how I feel, and that's pressure is diverted in a different way, in a wrong way, because that is affecting their mental health and their physical health and the social health. And uh, I mean, like, that is a kind of, outburst people see when it comes to, expressing the pressure.
To add to Kamlesh, with this the entire concept of masculinity, okay, and the societal pressure of being a man, okay, there's a problem that we can't even talk to, like I can't even talk to my male friends about certain things, like let's say family issues or breakup or something, because like Kamlesh said, the first response is that come, let's have alcohol, come, let's have a beer. Okay, so now you have broken up and you are a drunkard now. Okay, but your emotions cannot be, your emotions are still in. and you haven't spoken just because apparently mard ko dard nahi hota. Okay, and because of that fact you're not able to speak to anyone. Okay, and yeah, like Kamlesh said, the substance control, okay, completely goes haphazard after a point. So that's something that plagues men because of this unusual concept of masculinity.
And to add to that, so where does masculinity come from is a very interesting thing for me because I'm trying to think about it, and it's like asking a fish about where does water come from. It's everywhere. Uh, I think it was my every male person that I saw around my life. So that included parents, relatives, teachers, friends, uh, pop culture. At that point, I think a lot of my pop culture was around just men beating up other men to save their families, their girlfriends, their wives. A lot of my literature, the stories that I read were about strong men trying to sort of deal with things in a very strong, manly way. I mean, just the just the Bollywood stories around you, the kind of TV shows that you saw, the kind of men that you spoke to, right? In the sense that in my family, if there was a problem, very smaller things, like men would eat before women, they still do, or men would. In case there was an issue, the men would go out to solve it, and that percolated to uh, my childhood in the sense that it percolated to all of it. It wasn't restricted to men. So, for example, I remember this one situation where I was out with one very specific female friend of mine, and we were walking around after school. Uh, and after uh, we were home, so my home was on the way first. So I just decided to say bye and go home. And she pointed out two things to me. Like, as a man, you should never go home first. You should have dropped me. And second, I walked inside on the road instead of outside. She's like, if you are ever trying to be a nice man to women, don't do that. Men always walk outside. It was highly confusing for me. She was also a couple of years older to me, so I assumed her truth to be absolute truth, and I tried to sort of wrestle my way around standing outside, sometimes rigidly, or just walking behind women just to ensure. And I didn't know how to protect. I'm not a strong person. I wasn't ever the kind of a kid who would get into fights. If I did, I would lose. I knew that, but I would still just take up this giant armor of like, oh, I'm going to protect the women around me. That includes my mother sometimes, and I didn't know where that came from. I didn't understand where that came from. But before I knew it, when by the time I was a teenager, I was in my head a protector. I had to manage everyone's problems. I had to manage everyone's emotions without the option to express mine. And for this, I don't have anyone else to blame but me, in the sense that the concealment of emotions happened through a very structured manner. But almost every time that happened, that was a decision that I made that was informed by all of these uh, smaller instances, like going out for a drink, like going out to meet people. You'd rather be the mysterious, silent kind than the expressive, vulnerable kind. uh, and that takes a while to break. I don't know if I've broken that still, but a lot of those instincts are so ingrained. You said while asking the questions, Prati, that it sounds hard. Uh, while it may be, it is so ingrained that it doesn't feel hard because it's second nature.
Well said.
Those instincts are developed since so early on that I don't think that it becomes. I don't think anyone stops to think that they are doing that. But at least I don't.
Yeah, like when Vachal said about the protector behavior. Okay, after a point of time, like I understand that there is no particular time for a man or a woman or any other gender to go out in the day. So I tried creating a balance that after 11 o'clock nobody goes out because it's anyway very safe for everybody in Delhi. Okay, unsafe, sorry. Okay, but then when I tell my male friends that who call me out at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, I tell them it's not face. यार तू मर्द नहीं है क्या? Fine, that gone. But when I tell my female friends also, I get the same response. Oh, you are there to protect me, right? Why can't I go? I was like, no, it's unsafe for me also. Why don't you understand? Okay. But then you cannot say, like, after a point, you cannot say because they are not going to understand. So whatever the time is, whatever the emergency is, go and address it. Okay, because you have to. So yeah. But then meanwhile, something happens to you, it's your fault only.
also to add on to that concept of what Anish said, to mar nahi hai kya? Men are suppose, I mean, it is expected from men that they should booze. They should,
Sorry.
they should booze. They should.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you are not into alcohol, you are judged on that parameter. That okay, you're not drinking. Why? Like you are a grown up man now. Then you should have alcohol, and that's, I don't know how that parameter came into existence, but then it's a sign of being a man that if you're sitting with friend and if you're not drinking, then you're judged on that front. Why you are not doing so? So that is a very confusing concept, I believe. It's drinking alcohol or getting booze. It's a very personal choice. You might have medical issues. You might not like the taste at all, or you just don't want to do it. So that's a very personal thing. I don't know why it has been related to your personality for being a man as such. And also another concept when Vatsal was talking about. This is also very confusing for me. Being chivalry is a very it is not related to men or women. It equally applies to all the genders. Why are men expected to be kind of if open the door when you're entering some restaurant or maybe some conference room, or if you pull the chair for a lady, that's a good thing. I am not objecting on that part, but if you're not doing it, then you are condemned that you're not a good man. So that's the kind of pressure I believe men has, that they always have to in a public eye, they always have to look good.
With that example, I have a question to ask Smriti, if I may. Okay. So you all are standing in an elevator. Okay, and with you alongside there is a pregnant woman and there is a child, a small baby. When the elevator lifts open, the elevator lift door opens, who will you let out first?
I, I think I'm just, my default is to stay back. So I don't know if it will be, either is fine. I'm not sure what I would do.
Kamlesh?
I don't know if instincts would play out in that situation, but Kamlesh, please.
I mean, like, I would stay back and allow them to go ahead. I mean, like the lady and the child.
Okay, with it?
Yeah, same.
Like whoever standing at the door first can go first. There is no chivalry here in the lift. Stop, don't hold back the traffic. Okay. This was taught to me by one of another masculinity sessions we had in college. Okay, that certain times chivalry is not required. Okay, like okay, fine. There's a lift. Whoever like it opens, whoever's standing at the door first, leave. Okay, so sometimes chivalry is not required. So that's what I got reminded of Kamlesh's thing.
That's a nice point, Anish, because my answer also came to you because those are unsaid, unwritten concept, and what we have learned throughout our growing up, that that needs to be done, and that is the correct way. And we always, the way Vatsal said, we always want to fit into that molds, and if you're not fitting in those molds, you are judged.
Yeah.
But that's a nice thing, and that's a very logical thing also to do.
And just to add to that, so just again going back to where does this come from, right? Just through that example, now, this pressure, there's a lot of pressure, unnecessary pressure that that gets created for some reason in this identity play thing. That's, I think it's a circular loop where men try to behave in a certain way, and then as children, because you are only play acting, so you don't really know the rules of the game, so you are essentially just uh, taking cues from the outside world and doing just play acting the exact same thing once again. I think it's a circular loop where men create this mold, and then there is another generation of men who sort of fit in it, and then it just keeps going on and on. Because I, I think until I grew very old, I don't think I had a lot of people or just molds that, or people that didn't fit into the mold that I could look up to sort of set my behavior around before I was just old enough to decide to understand that I could just decide my own behaviors. I didn't have to really look up to people. It took me a while. So because this is a circular loop, I don't think it takes a lot for people to break.
Also, it at times it is difficult to break because the kind of influence you have, maybe from the family or the society, and also the media what you watch, it is portrayed the way that you, and a lot of time media has a kind of influence on everyone, and the way things are portrayed in the media, you feel that that's a correct way to behave, and that's how you want to fit in those things.
It's also about the default nature of those things, right? In the sense that as a masculine, the world is designed in a masculine manner, right? So your pop culture had more heroes than he, you know, heroes were male and not coming from other identities. Most times they were strong. Most times they were the ideal was rich person. The most times your male heroes would try to accumulate power. Most times they would try to protect people. And even outside of pop culture, the way the world is designed, the way the uh, career paths, the way educational systems, the way a lot of things are designed, we don't have equal participation of other identities at workplace. Most participation comes from men, specifically in power situations. Most times, uh, access to public spaces, access to uh, public institutions is for men. So when you are growing up, the as a man, as the default status is you are the identity the world is catering to. When everything works in your favor, why would you start questioning everything in the first place? Why would you, even when it's difficult, even when it's inconvenient, uh, what would why should someone be prompted to say that, hey, maybe this is difficult? Because everything is just the way it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be anything like it. And at least for men, there is a reward at the end of the day. I read this in an interesting. I read this in a book. I forget the book right now, but it said that being born a man, being born a male identifying person, is like getting 10 lottery tickets instead of one. You're not guaranteed to win, but you might have way more chances than anybody else, and that seems true right now. So yeah, it's very difficult to get to question that because it's again very inherent.
Very interesting conversation happening. Then I've got so many questions to ask all of you as well. And uh, it spoke a lot about in terms of these ideas and these molds that have been set for men, in terms of how they're supposed to be, how they're enacting as well. And what's really touch upon, what really influenced this idea and these molds. And I'm also curious to know from Kamlesh and Ethan with this that, who were your role models growing up? If you had to choose like maybe one or two people in your lives while growing up, and who was informing this understanding of masculinity and what does it mean to be a man in the society? Who were those people?
If I say I mean, like, a lot of values kind of, in terms of you, I have brought it, I get it from my parents and my father, but it has a limit, kind of thing. Because I lost my father at a very young age, and I could not, I've heard from people he was a very good man, very good man, in terms of, the kind of helping nature he had, and the kind of man he was. But to be as a role model, I did not get that kind of opportunity to be with him and to understand him as a man, because at this level, at this age, what I can feel, or I understand the responsibility kind of thing, I could not, I did not get that opportunity. So my growing up was more from the perspective of, looking at the surrounding and kind of thing, and maybe those, I used to watch lot of TV shows, and maybe movies. So that somehow influenced my behavior. And since from the childhood, I used to read a lot of books, a lot of characters what I have read, and that has shaped me up in the kind of man I am now. And I am proud to say that I'm not a very aggressive, which is a known quality for being a man. I am not aggressive. I like to balance things. in whatever situation. I do not go into the extreme one, and that is how maybe from my learnings and from my reading of my books, and uh, uh, what I've learned from my mother, that's how I balance my thing. So I have a good I wouldn't say the masculinity or kind of thing. So I have good balance of masculinity, being a masculine man, and maybe a soft heart like a female, sort of, because that has come from my mother. So she was a role model for me while I was growing up, because she has behaved like what is expected out of men, to go to be a bread earner at home, to be a protective one. We have seen her through our growing age, and those are and at the same time she had a soft heart. I had seen once it was raining very heavily, and there was somebody at the door begging something. So she called the person inside. She gave her food. She asked her to, to be there for the timing while it was raining. She slept at a place and kind of thing. So while she was going out and earning the bread and being our protector, she had also had a soft heart when she used to feel pain for others, and she used to empathize with others. So I have a mix of both. So I had a female as a role model of mine, and that's why that's how I have been built, and I'm proud of that.
No, similarly, Kamlesh, very well understand. Like, while I was growing up, my father got really sick when I was just four or fifth standard. Like sick as in the bedridden sick. Okay. So from there, everything was taken care of by my mom. So obviously she couldn't have much time for us. So two of my role models that time when I thought they are my role models was one, my uncle. Okay, from him I learned all the professionalism, how to dress up, my craze of riding bullets, cars, and everything came from him. Then the second one was Aslam Bhaiya. Okay, he told me Aslam Bhaiya was a helper person. He told me the male men needs to play sports. Okay, so he taught me cricket, he taught me football, he taught me badminton, everything. Okay, but then similarly there was this one incident, and that time when I was following them. So when I was following my uncle, I saw that men cannot go to the kitchen. Okay, all of that stuff and all that, but then I was not liking it. So at one point of time there was this bus from Tamil Nadu carrying a lot of Tamil people got broke down near my locality, and all the like around 40-50 people came inside the colony. Okay, my mom took them inside the house, gave them food, and we were made to cook some food in the kitchen, which was not done by male before. Okay, and my mom managed some entire 80, 90 men over there. Okay, and since then she has also been the breadwinner. So similarly for Kamlesh, right now my role model is completely my mom, without any doubt. Okay, and I really don't mind having a female role model, like not at all. Like I'm proud of it. So this was so while growing up, it was usually my uncle and Aslam Bhaiya. Okay, but then now it's constant. Ki mummy.
Thank you
It's
for
very
sharing.
interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's very interesting because I realized that a lot of I didn't have that. I was predominantly influenced by the men in my family as far as family is concerned. But if I'm trying to understand my role models, I was a very introverted kid, so it was very difficult for me to make friends, at least around my colony. So I didn't really have friends. I had friends in school, but that once the school bell rang and I was home, I was by myself. So I think I just found respite in stories. So there was Harry Potter, and then there were like a lot of TV shows, and then there were a lot of movies. Movies were more harmful than other things, I feel, because Indian movies at that time were going through a masculinity crisis, I think. And maybe that informed a lot of what I had to sort of decide to unlearn, and I'm in the process of doing that. But yes, most of times my role models come from stories that I watched, read, heard around that time.
Thanks for invite it into the conversation. विदित आपके लिए रोल मॉडल्स कौन थे?
तो जैसे कि मैंने भी ज़्यादा टाइम अपने पेरेंट्स के साथ नहीं बिताया है, हाँ, बट मैंने सुना कि मेरे फादर भी काफ़ी अच्छे पॉलिटिशियन भी थे, काफ़ी अच्छे हस्बैंड भी थे, काफ़ी कुछ। बट एट दी एक ऐसा समय आया कि हमारे बीच में डिस्टेंस हो गया, मेरा और मेरे फादर में। सो फिर उसके बाद मैं थोड़ा रिलीजियस पर्सन बन गया, जिस वजह से काफ़ी कुछ मुझे सीखने ही मिला. सो मेरे लिए रोल मॉडल एज अ लॉर्ड शिवा. सो आई जस्ट लर्न फ्रॉम देम कि they believe in equal gender and equality. So he's he's a real man for me. He a masculine man, and because Lord Shiva says always Shiv Shakti. So yeah.
Thank you, Vijay. And earlier on, Vatsal was talking about how there's a circular loop that gets formed, right? Where the young boys inside they're learning from the previous generations as well. And because of the kind of behaviors, attitudes that are being adopted by the men they're noticing around them. And I see from this conversation that all of you were able to break the circular loop. And I think, and this became possible because either of the men that you had in your life or the women who had you had in your life you could look up to as well, who was breaking those stereotypes. Where Kamlesh and Anil did talk about how they had women, their mothers as the breadwinners of the family, right? Which is not something if you and I'm wondering if that role model was not present, then how things would have been for you. What he spoke about books and how that informed his idea about masculinity and sort of the toxicity in this toxic masculinity that exists as well, right? Which is also turned to religion, to uh, to Lord Shiva, what is the place stood for as well. And I'm wondering, when at what point in time did you start identifying this toxic masculinity and decided to very consciously distance yourself away from it and be okay in a mold that you was creating for yourself, even though it may not be accepted by society at large? What was that moment when you started realizing the how problematic this was for you as a person and also for the male community at large?
I think to me it first it happened unconsciously. So I don't think I'm at a place where I've just questioned all of my male instincts or I am a reformed male to that extent. But I feel like what helped is the company around me. I think uh, I had a lot of friends who uh, weren't uh, uh, just masculine in the way that I knew masculine, and that exposure to extremely close friends who continue to be friends right now, who aren't as masculine as I was trying to be, just sort of forced me to express myself in a way, because otherwise there was no way for me to be in that larger group, and I was very interested to be a part of that larger group. So the people around me and the fact that there was influence around me and spaces for me to express uh, uh, just made me express in a way that I wasn't able to before. So that started, but that's where I started sort of not trying to fit in or not trying to become something that my instinct told me to. But I don't think I understood it until much later. Until I mean, it was literally fed to me by either pop culture or I mean, things that you read over the internet, in books, in movies. Uh, it was recontextualized by a lot of theoretical or fictional things that I read and saw. But it happened only through peers, and the fact that there was a lot of peer support.
A lot of time there is this peer support and the kind of idea which is built that men cannot be sensitive, and the kind of movies you see men uh, portraying the character that they're being harsh and not sensitive, and females are more sensitive kind of thing. I think I broke the stereotyping kind of thing, being a sensitive person when my father passed away. I was very young, but then the kind of stories I heard from my bua and my other relatives and kind of thing. One of the story was like, we had a neighbor there, and this particular person was suffering from cancer. And I remember I mean like uh, just before during Diwali, everybody was bursting crackers, and my father has asked me not to burst crackers, because if you're bursting crackers, the sound will, because of that sound, the person will get disturbed, and he's not keeping well. So you should play your role by not adding to the sound. So that was being sensitive. Another story, when this person passed away, I got to know about this story long after my father passed away. When this ill person, my neighbor, passed away, uh, my mother was taking care of all the children. My father, there is a ritual when somebody passes away, you the uh, before taking him to the you know, how do you say it,
The cremation ground.
yeah, the cremation thing. There are these rituals and processes which are done. You bath, you give bath to the person. And because this person was having died because of the cancer, nobody was ready to touch him.
Oh.
So and it was my father and my bua who went ahead and who did. They were not related to him, we were just neighbor. And they did the whole ritual and kind of thing. And this was a story told by my bua to me, that these were the things. uh, and there I realized that it's okay to be sensitive, and man do not have to be harsh. And that's where I think I could broke that stereotype of of being a harsh and a rude person. And then you can also be sensitive, and it doesn't take away anything from you. If you're being sensitive, you can still be a man, and you can be a sensitive person.
Oh, like it's like correctly pointed out, Kamlesh, that men need not to be harsh or rude or arrogant or be powerful all the time. Keep showing your strength somewhere or the other. Okay, that's correctly pointed out because it's so much expected. Some, especially from the place I'm coming from. Okay, and here sometimes few of my friends are very well spoken. Okay, very polite spoken, and and when they talk to any like auto rickshaw walas or cab walas or anybody, they talk very politely. Okay, and in return what they get, that sir आप इतने आराम से क्यों बात कर रहे हो, आप ठीक हो ना? And I'm like, वो आदत हो सकती है उसकी, कुछ भी हो सकता है. Why do you judge on the basis of that? Otherwise, if you talk to oh bhai, kaisa hai and all that, then probably you are a man here. Okay, which is completely completely what I call like, I feel very like annoyed after listening to all of that, especially where I come from. So that's very well pointed out, Kamlesh.
Yeah, and it's very interesting when we say that there is a mold, right? And when we say we have to break the mold is completely created by life experiences around you. So it's the mold is not a physical thing; it's an abstract thing. But it's interesting that all of us, despite vastly different life experiences, end up at the same mold, because just how strong that mold is, and essentially takes what it takes to break that mold is just outside influence. Most times you can't, I don't think it's possible, or it's very rarely possible, at least in my experience, to break it by yourself without having at least some sort of peer support, at least some sort of a community, individual, anything uh, that accepts the fact that that mold is not valid. I don't think it's valid to be, it's possible to be or expect someone to break that without giving them the support to be anything else.
So I did show from writing that for what became possible for him to make those dents in the field was the peer support, where there was space to be able to be vulnerable, to express himself the way he wanted. It's almost like finding his tribe, right? And for other people, what were those external support systems that you had, which made it possible to firstly see that there is a more that exists, that there is space outside the mall where you could express yourself the way you would like it. So who made that more visible to you? Acknowledge that this more exists, and it's okay for you to make that bend and to break away from that mold.
To be very honest, no one has yet. Okay, it had to had to figure it out on our own. Okay, because like I said, to add to the last point that Kamlesh was saying, okay, not only the family, no, not only the social things, also the incidents that are happening around the country, which makes you also feel that If that is a concept of the man, I don't want to be one. Okay. So few incidents like, let's say Nirbhaya. Okay. And, before that, like the recent, the Aftab incident also. Okay. All of them, if that's a concept of a man, okay, because nobody's coming to us to teach us what is a man, what a man is. Okay. All they have to do is just give out certain assumptions. Okay. And same, not like we've been blaming societies. And in that society, I would blame my family also, because there is a certain, there's no window to go and reach out or cry. Okay, because सामने से एक ही response आता है कि मर्द नहीं रोता. Okay, they will deal with everything, they will deal with all the things. You go boy types. No, it's not like that. Okay, but then, to be very honest with you, we are still like, I'm still creating that mold for myself by identifying certain things every point of my life. Okay, but till now nobody has come up to me to tell me that, this is masculinity, this is a man, this is whatever. No, not yet.
For me, I think I think I'm debating myself, but it's been pop culture, it's been peers, but there's also one additional thing, in the sense that it's very important to identify one very important thing, that, like I said, default gender, right? So all of my instincts, or all of male instincts, were supposed to be default, and the idea was that when I am default, when I am uh, the straight man, the objective decision making authority, I'm not bound to make any mistakes. I'm bound to be the correct one if I'm fitting into that mold, because that's how powerful structures are. So I mean, on a larger scale, most people in power are men. If you were a man, you would be objective. Uh, you would be rational, and you would make correct decisions for your life. Right? I mean, and it's very it's through a lot of influences and things like that, I understood that objectivity isn't really a natural thing. Objectivity, I mean, it's not. Men don't take decisions without emotions. We just make it seem like we do. Objectivity in that sense is just male subjectivity. And to the idea that decisions could be taken up without emotions, with rationality, uh, that breaking required a lot more effort than just expression. Expression in that sense, because of peer support, was easy. But the idea of letting go of power, or the idea of the fact that letting go of power is also an option, that's something that happens on a much larger scale in society. And I don't know. Um I don't understand what it takes to break that, because it's a much larger system that affects everyone, that affects a lot of men, but it just doesn't come to nobody comes to realize that.
Like, right now for me currently, the TV, okay, the broadcasting has a lot of influence for me what to understand a man is. Okay, for example, that there are current sports persons. Okay, for example, Sebastian Vettel, four-time F1 champion. After every race, after driving at 300 km per hour every lap, he's going and picking rags from the stadium. Okay, so he's also that humanitarian person. He's spending time with kids. Okay, he's going to NGOs and doing all of that after having a very, that adrenaline race after that. Okay, so he's one, like, person that I look up to on the television. Okay, then of course Roger Federer. He's also very humanitarian of that sort. So right now the TV culture, but when I started growing up, the TV culture was Kyunki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu and Kahani Gar Gar Ki, which messed up the concept of men. Okay, like totally, even the concept messed up the concept of female also. Okay, but then yeah, now the television is much better. Okay, so I'm resorting to television right now to get more ideas of how to be a better person rather than be a better man.
I genuinely don't think the television is better, because I still have a mother who watches daily soaps. We are just accessing better television now. Just have the option to avoid it.
हमने केबल ही हटवा दिया.
So for me, these molds were, again, I would agree to Anish, because, growing up, the kind of serials and kind of stuff, these has created these invisible molds. For me, breaking out these, stereotypical molds were like more my just or zeal to find solace in my life, because I feel they were a little. I don't know, you feel sometimes you feel that your life is the most horrible life when you see your problems. And I feel sometimes that it was while growing up. So I always have the zeal to to look for a solace. So I have gone through a lot of meditation camps and sort of stuff, and these meditation camps, rather it may be vipassana, or going to to certain dynamic meditations of Osho, or learning Reiki, or learning hypnosis at times, or doing learning EFT, or uh, 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 transactional, doing transactional analysis, all this thing. And of course my reading has broken that stereotypical type, because those have given me an idea of how you should behave as a human, and not categorize yourself as being a man, woman, or any gender. Be human, and be understanding, and lead your life. And I always put logic in everything, and a sense of uh, uh, a hint of sensitivity towards others when you're dealing with anybody around you. uh, uh, there are certain toxic culture in the society that once uh, when women get married and her husband for XYZ reason is no more, you're not allowed to marry, and kind of thing. So I feel that's a kind of culture. And I, through this my meditations and reading and kind of thing, I'd gone up to my mom and, like, one day you'll be old, you'll be alone, we will get married, we'll have our own spouses and our partners, uh, uh, and we will carry on our life. Who will you be with? I'm like, you will have no one to be with you. And, like, you need at later stage of your life, you need somebody to at least to talk to express your emotions. And I went to, why don't you get married? Then I was open about that. I was very clear about it. You go, like, because it's your life. We are, by hook or crook, or by any ways, we will grow up, like, in a better way, or maybe in not so better way, but we are bound to grow up. But then you will need somebody, and I believe everybody in life needs some partner, at least to be with, at least to listen to them. So these maybe reading book, and since I when I was introducing myself, I said I'm a avid reader and a freak traveling the world, and kind of thing has given me that perspective and broken the stereotype.
So Kamlesh, well said. Everybody needs a partner, whoever it is. And another stereotype that we need to break, that men can survive on their own. They cannot.
Yeah.
विदित, आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे?
मैं यही बोलना चाहूँगा कि जैसे कि मर्द अपने मन से नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि लोगों की सोसाइटी में ये बना है कि अगर एक आदमी अगर सीरियल देखता है, सो सोसाइटी जस्ट जजेस कि सीरियल सिर्फ, डेली सोप सिर्फ वुमेन्स देख सकती है, मर्द नहीं। दे हैव टू प्रूव। सो काफ़ी ऐसे पॉइंट आते हैं कि आदमियों को साबित करना पड़ता है कि आप मर्द हो अगर आप अल्कोहल या सिगरेट नहीं लेते हो। अगर आप ये करते हो तो दैट मीन्स यू आर अ मर्द, अदरवाइज नॉट। सो आपके फ्रेंड्स, आपकी फैमिली, रिलेटिव्स, कोई भी आपको फोर्स कर, हर एक पॉइंट ऐसा आता है कि आपको साबित करना पड़ता है कि आप मर्द हो। दैट्स वाई हर पॉइंट पे आदमियों को इतना प्रॉब्लम्स आती है।
So, like I was hearing all of you talk about your experiences and your reflections, it seems to me that you have redefined masculinity for yourself. And as you've redefined this, I'm also wondering that what does it mean for you to look at yourself as a man in society where the notions are very, very different? How do you define success for yourself? Because in our society, success is usually measured by the position that you hold, how loud you are, how authoritative you are as well, in terms of how much of money you're making, how successful you are in your career. But with this reflection in terms of how a man can be a homemaker, they can be vulnerable. They could cry. They could express their emotions. What does it really mean for you and the way you view someone who is accomplished and successful?
So it, so this sort of gets into the larger conversation about how the male identity is harmful in the sense that it sort of does not let you define your life in a way that you would otherwise want to, and that is because success for you is predefined in, like you said, in terms of financial success, be it the position authoritative success, and on a larger scale, male identity has most of the power, right? Despite uh, all of our efforts, despite everyone's efforts, and we are talking in binary right now, but female participation at the workplace is not acceptable, especially in power situations again, where I mean we fall to single digits. I think 1 in 5 people participating at work in India is a woman, and I think 4% at most in powerful situation. That's not something that's acceptable. Even if we look at it only from the male perspective, because that makes us want to behave in a certain way, that makes us want to define success in a certain way, where it's impossible to not think of those end points and those end rewards as the fruit of all of the labor of being the man in this society. It's very difficult to break that idea. It's very difficult to redefine success, because success means uh, it still means a lot of the things that traditionally mean for men, and I would love to break that so much, but it's just that much harder. And I don't think I can individually do that, because as a lot of men, I mean, because of the default status, because of the way that I I am viewed, at least by myself, I uh, it would take a much larger system for me to redefine it. At least for my extent, where at least for myself, where I am sitting right now, because a lot of men will have to start making decisions. A lot of men will have to decide. We, as a lot of men, at least on a smaller scale, will have to decide to give up on a lot of those power positions, those privileges, in order to come to a place where success does not mean unhappiness. Success is something that we can define for ourselves, not to society. And for I don't think I've redefined it, but I think it will take a lot of effort for all of us as a gender to redefine that in a way that it works for us.
Because society has defined success in a particular way. Like you need to be financially successful. You need to have a particular position as a society, in your career. But I feel success is very subjective, because and should be very subjective. Though it is defined in a particular way, I take it in a way that I set my own parameters. I would like to be at a better place from where I was last year, in all terms, in terms of finance, in terms of my health, and in terms of my mental well-being. As I'm growing up, I also get serious about my health, so I go for jogging and kind of thing. Uh, uh, I manage my finances well, and I aspire to be climb up the ladder in my career path also. So that's how I feel I define my parameters, that where I was, for example, where I was in 2020, I should be at a better position in 2022. So that's how I would define my success ratio.
For me, there was a significant, I don't know whether to call it an improvement or whether to call it a deterioration. But then after the, like, when the lockdown started in 2020 and we were all staying at home, okay, and there were, like, the idea that, ladka kabhi ghar ke kaam nahi karega. Okay, that completely changed. Okay, when I came out to my balcony to broom my balcony, I can see my friend right in the opposite balcony washing clothes. Okay, because we were all supporting everybody during the lockdown period. Okay, so from there, like, a significant amount of change came, particularly where I stay, is that since COVID is there, since things are uncertain, it's okay how much ever you earn, provided you are there for your family. Okay, so that is right now where I am standing in terms of, being a, like, being a successful man, that, I'm able to manage, I'm able to do my work no matter how much ever I'm earning, but also I'm able to provide to my house or being helpful to them. Okay, and that has, significantly increased in the past 2 years. Okay, and I think I'm, right now doing a better job at managing my house, but yeah, it can be improved a lot.
Just to build on to that part, managing house was never a problem and never an issue for us, because while growing up, we never had choice. And our mom used to give us equal work to all of us. So washing clothes and dusting your house or mopping floor was very very usual, and I never found anything wrong in doing it, because also I'm a little bit of I won't say OCD, but I have those traits. So I have OCT. So that also inherently came there. So and I never felt bad in doing these kind of work. Yeah. One thing I used to hate a lot was washing clothes. And when I got my first paycheck, I bought a washing machine for myself. So that was the thing.
When my mom increased my pocket money, I went to the laundry. इनको
It's interesting how all of you have defined success for yourself, and I want to actually stay with what Kamlesh said in terms of around his mental health as well. And mental health generally as a concept, as a topic, is not spoken enough about in our society, in the world itself. I think we saw a significant change happening during the pandemic, where people started recognizing that we need to also focus on mental health, just not on physical health as well. But I'm also reflecting on your experiences in terms of your emotions. It's the emotion that you could access and not access, right? It almost seemed to me that, in a lot of spaces, men do not have the space to access the emotions of it is wanting to be vulnerable, to say, I can't go on like this right now. I am feeling overwhelmed, that I do not have it in me to protect someone else because I can't even take care of myself right now. And just to be so vulnerable to say all of these things, I don't know if men really have those spaces. And then what does it really do to their mental health? Because it's okay if I'm being aggressive, if I'm being loud as a man. This is what is expected out of me. But if I want to cry, I want to give up, I want to stay at home, uh, there is no space to even verbalize it, let alone accept it and work through it. And I'm wondering, what does it mean for the mental health for men then, when these emotions cannot be accessed?
Smriti, on that, from past few years, I started speaking out. Okay. Whenever I have to tell people that, I cannot go somewhere because it's unsafe and I'm scared. Okay. I tell them very honestly that I'm scared. Okay. If at all, I want to cry, I tell my friends that, I'm not coming to, I'm not coming out today because I just want to take some me time and want to stay at home. That's the politest way I can put it. Okay. But then, yeah, it has a contradictory effect also. Okay. Where I'm at a stage where people have stopped calling me out. Okay. That is to kuch nahi hoga. Okay. Because he's too much into that emotional phase and stuff like that. Okay. Which is completely wrong. And sometimes I do feel bad about it. Okay. But yeah, right now the process is that, align with such people who would understand you. Okay. But then don't suppress what you're feeling, even if you have to cry or if you have to, just say it out, something that, completely goes against the stereotypes of men. Okay. So yeah, right now from past 2, 3 years, I'm at the phase that, I'm speaking it out. Okay. Even if it's a mental health issue, my family doesn't understand what mental health issue is. Okay. उनको गलती से बोल दो कि आपको साइकेट्रिस्ट के पास जाना, वो सोचेंगे कि आप पागल हो चुके हो. Okay. So this is the thing. Okay. But yeah, these days, I have been telling them, they understand, because I also think that, they are also in need of it. Okay. So yeah, so that's that's what I'm trying to become, how I try to become a man, so that I'm able to tell them also what the issues that it's plaguing them, where they are not even able to understand or even recognize for XYZ reasons. Okay, so that's a certain amount of improvement that I have seen, in not improvement, change, that I have seen in the past 2, 3 years. So I have been speaking it out. But then yeah, I don't have much people around me at the moment.
Emotions are
So
sometimes, adding to that part of Anish, emotions should be emotions and not should be categorized in gender. So, crying is for girls and not for guys, sort of thing. If you feel like crying, you should cry. There's no harm in doing it, because that's also a way to express your emotions. And because when you're not doing it, it will pile up and it will burst out to something else, which is which might be fatal, might be lethal, or a person might end up being a substance abuse, can take help from the substance kind of thing. So it's okay to cry, and maybe while growing up, and also while learning, I understood the fact that it's okay to feel vulnerable. Sorry, it's okay to be vulnerable, and you can ask for help when it is needed, and it's similar to when you're not feeling well, you're sick, or you're having a body ache. Similar is the thing with your mental health. If you're not uh, finding yourself good, you can go and ask for help. So when at times, like I went through a situation when I was down and kind of thing, I took therapy, and there's nothing, and I don't feel anything bad in telling to anyone also that I take therapy. It's fine, that's good, because ultimately that's going to help you also. Because I come from educationally, from the medical background, I understand that this is important, and you should, whenever it is needed, uh, uh, you should take help. And also the fact I understood that everybody should be given that kind of space, and that space is very important. You should not force somebody for a particular thing. So whenever it is required, for my mind, I take my own space, I take my own me time. And I also realize, either if it is the issues in the family or the surrounding, I advise them to go for take help whenever it is required. Certainly, compared to them, as Anish said, I understand their issues more, because I've literally studied it. Maybe because I can identify those issues. But sometimes it also becomes a problem when you are too much into psychology and psychiatry. You start analyzing and anything and everything. The way says, I said my behavior, I would categorize myself in OCD. I was, if somebody is a very jovial person, I would readily categorize them as a manic person, but they may not be. But that's the thing is. But one thing I understand very clearly, that everybody needs a space, and everybody can find their own way of coping up with the mental health. And when they can't, they can take help.
To that extent, so I understand that. I mean, by in the backdrop of everything that we know, right? We were raised to be, uh, pardon my language, but emotional cripples, right? We were supposed to behave a certain way. We were supposed to lock our access to a lot of emotions that otherwise we have access to. And I think Kamlesh said it. I'm not sure, but emotions don't have gender, right? But most things don't have gender. Most things have, we've given the gender identity because we've just done it. I don't really understand it. So to break that mold requires a certain level of rebel for any man on any level, despite any level of privilege, because you are still being rebellious to your to the patriarchal identity of men by accessing a lot of emotions, right? So to to do that requires a much larger change for me, that came from the society. That's something that the mental health positivity and acceptance movement, when that started and when I started gaining access to it, it sort of helped me understand that, oh, there is a choice. And I went through formal means of help and informal means of checking my behavior through my own self, through the things I was reading, watching other people do. So the fact that there was at least a little bit of movement in the society helped me uh, take that choice, to make that choice to just access my emotions, let alone express them.
सो जैसे कि कई बार ऐसी सिचुएशन आती है कि हमें मजबूत बनना पड़ता है और हमें बताया जाता है कि आप एक आदमी हो, आपको मजबूत रहना है, आपको टूटना नहीं है, आपको घर संभालना है, आपको रोना नहीं है। क्यों? क्योंकि आप एक मर्द हो। मर्द की पहचान है कि उसको वो रोए ना। अ, हमारे समाज में एक ऐसी नजरिया है अ, कि अगर आप एक आदमी हो तो या या तो आप बोल्ड हो और शांत हो, तभी एक मर्द होता है, क्योंकि नटखट और चंचल तो लड़कियां होती हैं।
मजबूती के साथ मजबूरी।
जी।
When I was listening to in terms of how the importance of mental health and how it's been also, for some people like Kamlesh and Matsuri, you've normalized seeking therapy and having these conversations as well. But I think a lot of people still either not aware or they feel they go through this dilemma and this conflict. What would it mean for me to reach out for help? Because that's not a message that they've got in their growing up years to seek help, right? Even how you have these memes also, the forwards that like men will not even ask for directions, right? I know things are changing, but just the whole idea about reaching out for help is also seen like a sign of weakness, right? Generally, self. And then to do it for mental health, where you are acknowledging your emotions, being more in touch with your emotion, and then to seek therapy. There's still taboo around it as well. Even though the statistics tell us that how so many of these mental illnesses are much more prevalent in men. And because of the suppression of those emotions, it does result in those heightened stress levels, heightened distress levels, resulting in a lot of mental health disorders. Like Kamlesh also mentioned in terms of the substance abuse is seen because one way of dealing with the emotion because they've not had any kind of outlet for it. While we acknowledge, the challenges that men are experiencing of just identifying with these molds that have been created, invisible molds that have been created by society, and having to fit in to be able to be accepted by the folks around them. There are also some privileges that comes with being a man, like Vatsal had mentioned earlier on in the conversation that it's about like 10 lottery tickets being handed over to men as opposed to one. So there's some privileges also that men have, right? So as we come almost towards the end of this discussion, I want to also understand from all of you that what are some of the things that these ideas that are there around men that you would want to hold on to, which are helpful? And what are some of the things that you want to let go of?
One thing I don't want to let go of is, the taking charge attitude. Okay, which is kind of expected and which is kind of inherited. Okay, because it's not only about taking the charge, it's about after taking the charge, whatever happens, who will take the responsibility for it also. So it's 100% process, not just a पहल नहीं करनी है, पहल के बाद जो result आता है वो उस पे भी तो somebody has to take accountability. Okay, and if a man is not taking accountability, the accountability is put on him. Okay, nonetheless. Okay, but then it'll be ideal of a man who can take the charge as well as be accountable even if the things go down south. Okay, so that kind of an that thing which has been inherited in us, I want to nurture that further. Okay, also, yeah, I would like to be a better breadwinner than my mother one day, which is impossible, but yeah, let's see. So these two things I still want to nurture.
I think in terms of nurture, I genuinely just want to. So it takes a while, right? In the sense that when you say that masculine identity is bad, it's all of the masculine parts of your identity. It's not your entire identity as a whole. So you still want to retain yourself as a person. I still want to do things that I otherwise enjoyed doing. But I want to enjoy doing them because I want them and not because that was expected from me. So that may mean a lot of my behavioral things. It's very difficult to point at least one of them out. So what I want to retain is just a personal identity of being, and being in a way that lets me be who I am without the pressure of expressing myself in a certain way. That might mean just a lot of good things, right? Like Anish said, taking responsibility, taking accountability. I wish a lot of us men folk did that way more than we do. And I would love to let go of uh, this is where letting go is where sympathy for masculinity, at least for where I'm standing, or just the that runs out for me in the sense that because a lot of these systems are designed by us, we really need to sort of just take stock and decide that a lot of our behaviors are leading to actual consequences for other people that might ruin someone else's life, or that might just negatively affect someone else's life. So letting go of those behaviors, anger, aggressiveness, and we are not even talking about violent crimes right now. We are talking about silent violent behaviors that affect the people around you. Letting go of those behaviors are important, because unless you can be who you are without letting other people suffer for who you are, uh, your identity is not really, your identity can't come over other people's identity around you. Your identity has to take a step back in order for other people to thrive. If it's actively damaging other people, it's not healthy. It can't be healthy. So keeping a sense of personal identity and letting go of those parts of my identity that I haven't consciously chosen. Uh, that's how I look at this.
Well said, Vatsal.
On the similar lines, what Anish and Vatsal said, I would like to retain, the accountability part of thing, and I would like to live as a human being who is more I'm like more sensitive towards others and the issues around, rather than being a self brat. I I would like to nurture those qualities of being more sensitive and kind of thing. While letting go of, I would like to go that the privilege what men get of being superior, and considered, given the first place at everywhere and more access to a lot of resources. I would like to have that equal of opportunity for every man, irrespective of whatever gender they come from. So at the end of the day, you are a human being and you have equal right for everything. So irrespective of where you come from and how you come from. So I would like to give up that thing. This is the superiority, and because of that, what superiority complex comes in men.
With it.
Nothing from my side, man.
So I think what I'm hearing from all of you is to just be accepted for who you are, and to be accepted for as a man, or as a woman, or as a person who identifies with any other gender as well, right? It's just more important to be accepted for who I choose to be with, and that gives me space to be authentic, where I do not have to pretend to fit in that mold that other people have made for me, right? Where I don't have to enact being someone who I'm not, something that I cannot relate with. And that could mean whether taking charge as a man or a woman or a person of any other gender as well. To be sensitive, to be loud, to be taking responsibility, to be accountable, or even letting go of that as well in some situations where it becomes too much to handle. But to be able to really have a space to be authentic, uh, and not be judged for making a choice of who I want to be. And this also, the entire conversation has made me wonder that, there is so many layers of being a man, to being masculine, which are often not spoken of, even though we have men in power structures, who are holding position of power, making these systems, making these structures as well. And they are possibly also experiencing these pressures, but they've not got a space to verbalize those pressures, again, maybe for the fear of not being accepted. I think what became possible for all of you to have role models who were either breaking these molds, or they were women, especially in the position of a mother, uh, to talk about how you can be someone who you want to be, whether it's being just sensitive, being vulnerable. The other space that really, I think, all of you got exposed to, which also got you thinking and reflecting around your own identity as a man, were books, movies, shows. Though I would also like to bring in us how you've also been very intentional in terms of the kind of content you're consuming, because we have so much of content available. And I think, but it's been really a journey for each one of you as a man to, in terms of, to discover and rediscover your identity as a man. And I'm really hoping that we can have more conversations around these and unpack so many of these nuances that were brought in today. And also, I hope that through these conversations, we can reach people who are in position of power to start redefining gender itself, right? Forget masculinity and femininity. I think gender itself needs to be redefined because there's so many stereotypes that comes with the gender. And gender is no longer binary, as we all know now. It's no longer just a man and a woman. I could choose to not, I could be gender non-conforming. I could be gender non-binary. I could be pan-gender. I could identify with both of them as well. And there's so many genders that are coming about. And these conversations, my hope is it's going to make possible for them to again embrace their individuality, which also brings in reducing the dissonance, which also causes a lot of mental health concerns and the stress and the internal conflict. And I hope we are able to just navigate through all of that space through these conversations, just not today, but the more conversations to follow from here. Yeah. So I thank each one of you for being part of this conversation and wishing you all a very happy International Men's Day, or rather International Humans Day. And I hope you continue to embrace your individuality the way you would like. Yeah. So thank you, everyone, and have a lovely day.
Thank you, Smriti.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you
Happy
so much.
International Men's Day, Humans Day. To all.
Sure.
Happy International Women's Day.
Yes.